So time on, and Cronin kicks off with the shallow kick. And Parramatta nearly coming down with it with David Lydiard. Knock on in the scrum. 15 metres into Canterbury's area. Straight through. Ray Price in the number 8. Peter Sterling, the 7. Not in the side. Last Sunday when beaten decisively by the Dragons. Canterbury winning the scrum. Gary Hughes gets it away. Coming into the back line, Chris Mortimer. Gary Hughes, dummy half. To the right, to the blind. Folks. Playing in the number 9 is Steve Folks. Chris Anderson. Met and tackled by Hunt and Edge. And play still centred around the halfway. This is Batiri playing in number 8. Steve Mortimer. Gary Hughes. Robinson. Kenny was low. Price had to come over the top. Steve Mortimer again. Gary Hughes. Ball going over towards that touch line and into touch. For a scrum about 8 metres out from the Canterbury 22.
A couple of times that we have seen Canterbury Bankstown play against Parramatta this year, their pattern's been fairly obvious, and we saw it again there. They worked play to the centre of the field, had some of the Parramatta forwards out wide in defence on the blind side, and they brought the ball quickly back to that blind side and found an overlap. So it's Cronin
taken low and put to ground by Batiri. Steve Sharp, and there's the first penalty of the match right in front. 32 metres out for Michael Cronin. Canterbury inside the 5. Breeze is coming out of the east today. And gusting at around about 14 k's. In fact, from 11 to 14. Coming out of the east, but if we can get a shot of a flag, it certainly is fluctuating, and probably more so than 11 to 14. If there is an assistance, it's with Parramatta in the first half. Cronin's kick is spot on, and Parramatta takes first points. After just 2 minutes of play, Parramatta leads Canterbury Bankstown by 2 points to 0. Very Growth, left knee heavily strapped. Restart taken by Ella. Coming outside the quarter. Met by Michael Pittman and Billy Johnston. Sterling to Cronin. Oh, misunderstanding, and Farah comes up with it for Canterbury. Mortimer. That's Pittman. He too has some heavy strapping on that right knee. Now Robinson. Pulled down by Mayers and Price. Batiri. Parramatta going in with the forwards hitting very hard. Steve Mortimer going to the right. It's the dummy, and Gary Hughes comes to the left, throws a giant dummy. The ball came off Parramatta. Steve Ella. That's a knock on. Scrum to go down. 15 metres out from the Parramatta line.
We saw an example there of Parramatta players holding off Gary Hughes, looking for who was getting the pass off him. And of course, he's a good enough and an intelligent enough footballer to go on his own and push into a gap should it arise.
So Parramatta coming up with the ball from the scrum, and Ray Price gallops away with it across the ground. This is Steve Sharp. Folks high, Johnston low. And a penalty again to Parramatta against Canterbury inside the 5. He got the wing 3/4, Ross Conlon. penalty to this man, Michael Cronin, after 2 minutes, leading by 2 points to 0. And Cronin's kick crosses the touchline in front of the Brawongal stand, about a metre on the Parramatta side of halfway. As Sterling takes the tap, he goes ahead and then stops and gives it to Bugden, who in turn is tackled by Robinson and Batiri. Out to Sterling, and he's given it to Jerd, and Jerd has lost it, and it's going to be a scrum. Chance for Canterbury to come up with free possession there, but they allowed Parramatta to recover, and so another scrum going down. Fed by Mortimer and won by Parramatta, I think, against the feed. It's a penalty to Parramatta. He's got Mortimer for not retiring, but Mortimer's saying, but sir, I went right around the back of the scrum. How can you get me for not retiring?
Good question.
Well, that was the indication quite clearly, Graham. You agree, obviously.
Well, I do. He'd already gone back behind his own scrum and had made it 360 degrees, if you like.
Yes, and once the ball's out of the scrum, anyone can fall on it.
Cronin taking the differential. And the tap to be taken just outside the Canterbury quarter, taken by Sterling, given to Groth, and across the ground goes Groth. Parramatta probably looking for an improved showing from Groth. They set up a wall on the blind side. They went open side, and Sterling, Kenny and Cronin worked together. This is Cronin playing it back to Ray Price, who goes to within about 15 metres of the line. And Price it is who's tackled by Batiri and Pittman. Now it's Jerd. Jerd gets rid of Johnston, throws the pass willy-nilly, finds Kenny. Kenny gets his pass out to Mayers. Mayers floats it out to Eric Groth. He'll be hard to stop, but he's been put into touch about 5 metres out, Groth. Chris Mortimer and Ross Conlon coming across in cover. Scrum 10 metres out from the Canterbury line. Fed by Mortimer. One against the feed by Parramatta, and Sterling it is who's tackled. With the line about 6 metres away, Ray Price passes to Steve Eller. It's gone to Michael Cronin. He stops and tries to unload Peter Mortimer. Gets the pass to Steve Eller. Eller is brought down. The line is just 11 metres upfield as it goes from edge and goes to Cronin. Out to Kenny. Kenny, oh, that's off the knee of David Lydiard. This could be play on. But Chris Mortimer comes down with it for Canterbury anyway. From Johnston, it's come away to Stephen Folkes, and Folkes is put down.
I know it's only early days, but Canterbury on 2 occasions now being caught very short out wide.
Yes, and a lot of people wouldn't appreciate the great job that Chris Anderson did, Graham, out wide. Canterbury used a short back line in defence, and Anderson was able to push the ball back inside, but they were in a lot of trouble had he not done that.
Ball being played by Coveney. Out to the showground side, and the kick through has been put in by Andrew Farrer. That should find touch, or is it going to? It still hasn't found touch. That's quite incredible. It seemed to be rolling an inch inside that touch line. And here's Neil Hunt now. Neil Hunt's on a very big run downfield. Tackled a few metres short of the halfway by Pittman. Out to Sterling. Now Mayers gets the pass back to Sterling. On to Jerd. Jerd held there by the Canterbury Bankstown centre three-quarter, Andrew Farrer. Sharp. Kenny cuts out Cronin, gives it to Lydiard. Lydiard taken by Peter Mortimer. And Parramatta, they lost about 15 metres there. Back to Cronin, puts the kick in Cronin, and oh, he's found touch with a magnificent kick. That was a gem of a kick by Michael Cronin, finding touch just outside the Canterbury 22 line. That's it on the Rank Arena replay. See how close it went to the touchline. Scrums against the feed, 2 to Parramatta, and another penalty goes to the Eels. Well, he's called Steve Mortimer out now to tell him how he wants the ball fed. Another differential penalty to Parramatta.
I think what Steve Mortimer was saying there, it's very hard for me to get the ball in straight because the Parramatta open side prop has got his foot across so far.
So the tap to be taken by Eric Groth. No, he's simply placing it there for Peter Sterling. Bugden goes ahead. Bugden's very close to the line. He's lost it. Robinson comes away with it for Canterbury. Gets rid of Jerd. Groth comes in, and Robinson plays it. from Johnston. It's gone out now to Pittman, taken by Price and Sterling.
We can see Billy Johnson, the hooker, getting the dummy half for Canterbury, trying to help ruck them out of here. And he's been one of the buys of the year. He's a very good defender. He's a good scrummager. And he's an excellent dummy half.
Here's the kick from Chris Mortimer. Charge down. That's not a knock on. Watching, and he's indicating a charge down. He's given a try to Peter Sterling. He's indicated a charge down. The ball was rising from the boot. And a player can charge down, and it is not deemed to be a knock-on. Watch it, the ball off the boot, rising, charge down, not a knock-on. Sterling played the whistle and the rules, and he's given a try, Barry Barnes.
Well, Chris Mortimer not getting enough protection here. The forward should have been in there to protect him. On that occasion, allowing Sterling to come in too close. Might have been better to run the ball, but Sterling, as you said, playing to the whistle. Magnificent start for the Eels.
Peter Sterling, Parramatta halfback, scoring the first try. Controversial, probably, in the eyes of a lot of people, but let me tell you, it's straight out of the rules of rugby league. 700 goals coming up for Michael Cronin in first grade. If he, well, should I say he's kicked his 700, that's his 701 in a first grade career for Parramatta. Parramatta leading Canterbury Bankstown, 8-0. Fumbles after 10 minutes. Parramatta 6 times, Canterbury once. David Lydiard. Oh, that's a disastrous start for Canterbury. Having a try scored in circumstances like that against them.
Well, it's not unlike probably the last 3 or 4 matches where they found themselves behind the 8 ball well into the second half in most of those matches.
Sterling
yes,
now.
We should give credit to Sterling on that try, but a lot of players would have been prepared to let Chris Mortimer get the kick in. He got himself the second marker, chased hard out of there, and of course he got the result for it.
Chris Mortimer brings it away. Taken by the kicker, Peter Sterling. Conlon. Mears is there now, making the tackle. Players on the Canterbury 22. Gary Hughes. Michael Pittman. Bugden is in 13. Johnston. Penalty to Canterbury. He's probably got Parramatta here for the markers not standing directly in front of the man playing the ball. Mortimer takes the tap, gives it to Johnston, back to Mortimer, then a cutout pass picking up Robinson, but Price is there making the tackle. And that's the halfway line you see, players on the showground side. Oh, that's a bad pass to give anybody. But Mortimer was able to take the tackle and still offload to his captain, Chris Anderson, and Anderson has now run into a couple of forwards over there, Stan Jerd and Paul Mears, to the open side, and this is Batiri. 3 Parramatta players making the tackle. This is Johnston turning it to Steve Mortimer, now to Gary Hughes, and a cutout pass picks up Andrew Farrer. Oh, he got rid of Michael Cronin, turned it back to Steve Mortimer, then to Billy Johnston. Johnston is taken by Paul Mears, and players 30 metres out from the Parramatta line. Mortimer, Gary Hughes. Kenny comes in, Hughes gets the pass away, Folkes takes the pass, he got the tackle of Ella, got it to Farrer, then on to Conlon. Conlon's looking for the corner, Gross got him, and he's into touch, about 5 metres out from the Parramatta line. Well, Ross Conlon's injured in the tackle. This was the replay of Conlon heading for the corner. The tacklers were Groth and Lydiard. Back to the action live now. And Parramatta has won the scrum. Max Krilich has joined us on the sidelines. A big start for the Eels, Max.
Big start for Parramatta. It's a bit of drama for Canterbury to be 8 points behind after such a short time. I think Canterbury's got to keep the ball down into the Parramatta half. They've got to kick this ball and get it down there. I know it was bad luck before, but they've got to get the ball down there and play them in their half. can't give away the penalties inside their own territory as they did before when Mick put that early goal over.
Max, you've hooked against both Stephen Edge and Billy Johnston. Are you prepared to give us your rating on them?
Well, I've noticed actually I'll give a rating on the scrummaging. I think the Parramatta scrummaging is very, very good today. I've had a look at it. I think actually Billy Johnston's a better striker for the ball, but I'd say the Parramatta scrums a lot tighter and a lot more constructive.
All right, so it's Canterbury Bankstown on the attack inside the Parramatta 22. Well, they're just outside it now as Folks is able to slide away from a couple of feeble Parramatta attempts at tackle. And now Folks is who's going to play it about 18 metres out.
And on the sideline, Ross Conlon doesn't look good for Canterbury Bankstown. I'd say he'll have to be replaced, and maybe we could see Greg Brentwell come into the game.
Chris Mortimer working with Andrew Farrar. Farrar taken about 9 metres out. Got a pass to Chris Mortimer, but it's a penalty. Oh, Steve Mortimer throws the ball down in disgust. Tony Armstrong will come on for Ross Conlon, but Steve Mortimer disgusted with that. Or maybe not so much disgusted with the referee as he was with the fact that it was a golden opportunity. But, you know, well, it would seem that he's got him for passing from the ground, no doubts. But Mortimer, that's what the disgust was over. He believes that the player had not, in fact, been put on the ground.
Well, of course, Canterbury have got a double problem now. Not only have they lost a very good winger in Ross Conlon, but they've lost their #1 goal kicker in Ross Conlon. And Tony Armstrong is a goal kicker, but of course he hasn't got the accuracy nor the length of Conlon.
We'll go for a report on Ross Conlon in just a few moments' time as Sterling gets it away to Ray Price, and Price stands and offloads, and Kenny is immediately ringed by the defence but got under them and got the pass away to Peter Sterling, who draws them and gets it to Sharp, and Sharp is held there by Farrar and Coveney. He's about 35 metres out from the Parramatta line, with Parramatta leading by 8 points to 0. A try to Peter Sterling off a charge down. It was converted by Cronin, and Cronin had prior to that kicked a penalty goal. And that brings you up to date at the 16th minute of the first half. Here's Mayers, and Mayers goes up, buffets into them, and then bounces off and tries to unload the ball. On that occasion he had no thought of it, but that's his caper. He simply takes it up and turns and tries to pop it down. Now Sterling has been tripped, and it's a penalty again to Parramatta. He's got Taz Batiri. Well, what a flood of penalties. 6-1 to Parramatta. There's Sterling. He put the kick through, and the referee got Taz Batiri for tripping, it would seem, Peter Sterling. And
interestingly, had his arms outspread to call play on.
And Cronin takes the kick for touch. Finds it about 33 metres out. Edge it is to take the tap. The Parramatta wall has been set. It's out to Sterling, on to Sharp. Oh, look at Robinson. Robinson came up to cream the wall, and Sterling has been injured.
There are a number of ways to stop the Parramatta wall. One of them is to wait for someone coming slow through the wall and pick him off as a receiver. The second way is to go up and belt someone in the middle of the wall, and that's exactly what Jeff Robinson did then. Just collided into the wall, and he's really taken Peter Sterling out of play.
See it again on the head-on. Look at Robbo. He went right up and he went crunch into the back of Jerd, but the man that copped it was Sterling, and he just went down as though somebody had hit him with a Shanghai.
Don't worry, they'll have second thoughts next time they put a wall on.
And that's another interesting one too, Bill, with that wall, that if a player does go up that quickly, then it can be deemed a shepherd if there's a player up there.
Now this is Michael Pittman, who plays it back, and Anderson gets it to Gary Hughes, and now it's with Steve Folks. Folks comes to Kenny, and Kenny makes the tackle. Play is 10 metres into Parramatta's area as the ball is fed out to Gary Hughes and gone to Steve Mortimer. Now Chris Anderson, and Jerd has made the tackle just a few metres into Parramatta's area. Away comes Batiri, and he passes, and that could have well been forward to Anderson, but the referee says no and play on. Anderson plays it, and it comes out to John Coveney. Coveney's met by Price and Bugden, and there goes Ross Conlon, taken off on a stretcher. And you don't like to see that anywhere, do you? And it's a tragedy for Ross Conlon as Lydiard tries to make the break from inside his own 22, and he's dealing there with Stephen Folks and Billy Johnston. Lydiard plays it on his 22, and it's out to Sterling. Sterling decides he'll try and step, and Robinson is there to bring him down, again with Billy Johnston, who's covering up the centre very well. Here's Hunt a man who can do anything from inside his own 22. I'd like to have a readout on Hunt if it was at all possible. The number of breaks that he's made inside his own 22 and turning nothing into something. Here's Ella trying to light step his way around. The ball has gone loose and Canterbury comes up with it per medium of Peter Mortimer. He plays it back to Taz Batiri. It goes to Steve Mortimer, now to Chris Mortimer, and he's hit by Steve Sharp. And play is now about 15 metres into Parramatta's area. Bugden beaten, Jerd beaten.
Very strong run there by Jeff Robinson, and Canterbury Bankstown need a lot more of that from their forwards to get Parramatta on the back pedal.
Penalty against Paul Mayers there for laying on the tackle player, and a shot here for Tony Armstrong from right in front, about 30 metres out.
That's where Canterbury need to strike back straight away, because another score to Parramatta could easily see them right out of the ball game.
Fumble count after 18 minutes. Parramatta has made 9 fumbles, Canterbury 1. But then again, I think Parramatta, if you did a percentage on the amount of time each has had the ball, they've certainly had a greater opportunity to make mistakes with it.
Well, there's no doubt that Parramatta have had all of the possession, Ray. The scrum count it reads 3-1 in favour of Parramatta, and the penalties read 6-3. So that's a lot of possession to have your way in a semi-final.
This is not a difficult kick, but I guess the great goal kickers, including my very good friend and co-commentator Keith Barnes, would agree any kick is difficult when you're playing at headquarters in a semi-final. And here's Armstrong from right in front. I think he's hooked it badly. He has. No goal. Neil Hunt brings it out from inside the in-goal area. David Lydiard is the dummy half. And Lydiard goes for a scamper and he beats Johnson, but is taken by Batiri and Coveney. And it's Edge now who's going to distribute out to Sterling and then to Cronin. And Cronin is pulled down by Folkes and Farah. Farah given a job to tidy up Cronin. It's a pretty big toe. Jerd's put it down badly. Anderson's got it for Canterbury, and the Bulldogs are on the attack, only 15 metres out from the Parramatta line as it comes to Johnston. Johnston finds Folkes, and Folkes is taken to ground by Bugden. Played now, and it's gone to Mortimer, now to Hughes, the dummy to Mortimer, and then Hughes looking to send a man up the centre, Chris Mortimer, and it's being played by Gary Hughes. Billy Johnston passes and finds Coveney. Coveney's tackled about 18 metres out from the line, right in the centre of the ground. Played back to Johnston, given to Steve Mortimer. There goes the kick, and David Lydiard has got it covered. He's beaten one, and he's taken in goal by Steve Mortimer, so it's a line dropout. Parramatta leading Canterbury Bankstown 8 points to 0. 21 minutes gone, first half. Rank Arena replay of the bomb from Steve Mortimer. Drop out by Cronin. So the report about Ross Conlon is a dislocation of the hip. That's only a preliminary assessment of his injury.
Well, hopefully for Canterbury Bankstown that won't be the case, because if it is a dislocated hip, there's no way he'll be playing again in 1983.
Ball being played by Johnston, 32 metres out from the Parramatta line, and look at Robbo go up. Jeff Robinson, he's really taking it up hard. The shades of Steve Roach from yesterday. This is Gary Hughes to Steve Mortimer, a cutout then on a decoy given to Chris Mortimer. And it was Stan Jerd who made the tackle just outside the 22 line. Away goes Steve Mortimer again, and he runs into Edge and Sharp together with Jerd. 5 tackles gone. Johnston away from dummy half. Folkes it is who puts it up in the air off the left boot, and Sterling is back there, takes it magnificently, the little fellow. He's had plenty of practice at it, of course. In fact, I think his initiation to the first grade was at the sports ground in a replay against Manly back in '76 when Terry Fernley used him as a fullback, or '78 was it? But he's had plenty of practice at that caper. Peter Sterling, another line drop out for the Eels. And taking it ahead is Chris Mortimer.
The Canterbury Bankstown attack is basically what we've been used to seeing from them, but I've noticed one small change, and that is that Gary Hughes and Steve Mortimer are sharing the first pass role. We're used to seeing Mortimer one off the ruck most of the time, but Gary Hughes has been pushing into that position a lot, and Mortimer's been taking passes two off the ruck. An interesting change by Coach Ted Glossop.
Yes, but I'd like to see the forwards put more variation into their play, Bill. For mine, they just leave too much pressure on both Steve and Gary Hughes.
Steve Mortimer to play it just outside the quarter. Out to Gary Hughes. A cut-out pass, and he picked up Folks. And, oh, well, how the hell did Jeff Bugden take that?
First slip catch, wasn't it?
Mate, Bobby Simpson wouldn't have caught that. It's gone to Mears, across to Price. Now to Ella. This is Kenny. Kenny's around Armstrong. Kenny's outside the 32. He's up to the halfway. Tackle just into Canterbury's territory. I was about to make the comment to both of you experts, and I don't use that word loosely. I am a bit concerned from a Parramatta point of view, or should I say a Parramatta supporters point of view. There seems to be a lot of first tackles being missed by Parramatta. Lots of them.
Well, it's not just Parramatta now, Ray. Canterbury slipping off some tackles, and those early setbacks of also losing a player seems to have disorganised them somewhat.
Steve Ella, a man that Parramatta needs back in form. Here's Eric Groth through 2, through 3. Look at Groth through 4. He's beaten 5. Oh, what a try! That is one of the biggest tries you'll ever see. That is one of the biggest tries you'll ever see anywhere in the world of rugby league from an individual. I saw him do something similar at Leichhardt this year. Ladies and gentlemen, sit back and watch Eric Groth. Number 5 for Parramatta. 1, 2, 3. Goodbye 3, goodbye 4. Here comes 5. Ta-da, I'm off for the line. You can make it 6. But Steve Mortimer did at least go across the line with him. Graham Hughes, have I exaggerated?
Well, to an extent, Ray. I was just talking about Canterbury being slightly disorganised. They were starting to look very brittle out wide, and all those tackles were just very straight up front tackles, all 5 of them inclusive. Chris Mortimer did well to try and get across after covering on the other side, but give the man credit, he's big, strong and fast, and possibly the best winger in the game.
Well, there's no such thing as an easy tackle on Eric Groth. He's the most dynamic ball runner in this game of rugby league, and you'll never see a better individual try than that one.
Thank you, Bill Anderson. Thank you, Graham Hughes. Michael Cronin converts the Eric Groth try. Parramatta leading Canterbury by 14 points to 0, 24 minutes gone. Oh, I reckon he wouldn't be happy. Gee, it's hard to assess tries when you're commentating so much football, and we've done heaps of it this year.
He's just such a hard fellow to tackle, Ray. If you go low, he's got such a long stride that he pulls his legs through the tackle. And if you go high, he's so strong, he just pushes you off.
Oh, Sterling's made a clean break. Outside 32. Oh, I thought he would have got it to Brett Kenny, and why, I'm not sure. But Kenny would have certainly given his opposition something to catch. Hunt, Canterbury at 6s and 7s. This is Lydiard. Bill, the point I was trying to make getting back to Groth was it's just difficult trying to assess a try with, say, another try that you've seen out of a heap of them through the season of rugby league. And that's the point I was trying to make. But by golly, I don't think I've seen a better solo performance ever. This is Ray Price. So we hush back now and wait for the next.
Well, Canterbury have got to take stock of themselves here. They're behind 14 points to 0. It's going to seems very difficult for them to get back into this match, but what they've got to do is just keep sticking at their game plan, working away, and they've got to hang on for longer than Parramatta are prepared to. They try to play catch-up football, they're going to get even further behind.
Armstrong beating Jerd, beating Cronin, crossing the quarter. Taken by Groth. It's gone from Peter Mortimer out to Gary Hughes, and now Michael Pittman's asked to take it away, and Ella makes the tackle, but he finds Steve Mortimer, and I'll tell you what he did, he promoted a hole. It's gone out through Stephen Folks, out to Andrew Farrer. Farrer's been piled by Brett Kenny. Johnston, Gary Hughes. Now it's with Coveney. He's got through a couple of those first up tackles again, the tackles I was talking about earlier. And though the scoreboard's reading 14-0 to Parramatta, I'm positive, knowing the way Jack Gibson thinks, and he bases his game on defence, that would be worrying him. Gary Hughes, Steve Mortimer, grubbing for line and finding it. Just 18 metres out from the Parramatta line. Paddington Hill corner. Rank Arena replay of the line kick from Steve Mortimer. Penalty to Parramatta. I think he's got Billy Johnston for getting down in the scrum. He has. Well, this is a real caning. Well, they have in fact improved slightly for Canterbury, but as an onlooker, it does seem that Parramatta are enjoying a glut of these penalties being awarded by the referee as Cronin.
Of course, Canterbury Bankstown aren't playing well, but it's difficult to play well if you're behind in the scrums and the penalties as they are, particularly against such a great side as Parramatta.
Here's Bugden. Don't forget, we're playing for the second night the Toyota 10 Footy Finals Fever. Total of $50,000 in prizes and cash. And 3 of you people out there tonight are going to win $1,000. Just keep watching that screen. You've got 10 minutes to ring that phone number after your name flashes on the screen. We're doing that right through to the grand finals, giving away the Toyota Tarago, P&O Cruises, and heaps of money. Here's Growth again.
Look out.
Oh, Billy, look out. You're sitting in the commentary box. Oh, Kenny! Kenny's got a magic pass from Growth, and Kenny is tackled 18 metres from the Canterbury line. Who said Growth wasn't fit? It's out to Mayers. Mayers not held. Up and going again, this young second rower. Back to Neil Hunt. Throws the dummy. Goes himself. He's 11 metres out. Tackle number 5. Peter Sterling will almost certainly bomb it. Here he is. Passes. Finds Ella. Ella goes back into the centre of the ground, and that'll be the turnover. First of the game.
There's no doubt that Coach Ted Gloss would be very disappointed with a one-up defence by Canterbury Bankstown. They're just not putting the man with the ball on the ground.
Ball played by Folkes. Andrew Farah comes away with it. Loser of this match to meet St George next weekend. The winner to play Manly. Steve Mortimer finding Batiri, and it was a solid hit there by Bugden and Jerd. And here's Robinson. He's through Sterling, but taken by Sharp and Jerd. Oh, that's a good piece of football by Robinson, getting it down to Johnston. And Edge and Cronin make the tackle on the Canterbury hooker. Played back to Mortimer and given off to Gary Hughes, who switches the point, but no, he's actually passing it back for Chris Mortimer to kick, and it's going down inside the Parramatta 22. Lydiard's got it well and truly covered.
And some of these Canterbury Bankstown forwards are very slow to get out on chase, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Paul Langmack come on at half-time.
Good chase by Peter Mortimer, grounding David Lydiard, who we know is, well, he's like Grease Lightning. It's out to Sterling, across to Cronin now. Cronin comes to Armstrong, stands in his tackle, cuts out Gary Hughes, gives it to Steve Ella. Ella coming in field, getting away from that touchline. He's reached the 32. Played back to Neil Hunt, given off to Steve Sharp, and Sharp takes it up and meets them. And Robinson and Coveney are there to tackle him, about 10 metres on the Parramatta side of the halfway. Played back to Edge and given to Sterling, and now to Kenny, and another penalty inside the 5 against Canterbury Bankstown. Barry Barnes. Michael Cronin taking the line kick. He should find it, I would think, around the 32-metre line. There's his kick, and he's done fractionally better than that. He's found it about 30 metres out from the Canterbury line. There's some interested spectators from the Manly club. Bobby Fulton, Alan Thompson, Ray Brown, Jeff Gerard, John Rebo. And it's now Jerd taking it up the centre, coming inside Peter Sterling. But Coveney is there together with Taz Batiri, and we're inside the Canterbury 22. Now we're right on it, and here's Price working off Kenny, and Price is tackled by Steve Folkes. Now Price plays it, and Kenny passes to Cronin, then the run around. He gets inside one, gets his arms free, gets out of a tackle. Kenny might score here. It's gone back to Cronin. Cronin gets it back to Kenny. Kenny's going towards the corner. He's in! Kenny is in for Parramatta's try. Parramatta's third try scored by Brett Kenny. Well, Canterbury Bankstown, they must have thought that this man was untouchable, Brett Kenny. He seemed to stand there for an age, and it would appear doing nothing. But he and Cronin, well, they were performing their own Houdini. see it all again on the Rank Arena replay, in a tackle, out of a tackle. Then he comes to an end here in a moment, finds Cronin. Now Cronin's allowed to do the same. It's as if you're not allowed to touch this man. Away goes Michael heading for the ground, but it's back to Kenny. And Kenny's in the scoreboard corner.
Well, it's just very basic and simple defence here that's letting the Canterbury side down. Kenny again going through some very, very poor defence, being able to stand. Canterbury just standing off, waiting for Parramatta players to do what they like with the ball. On that occasion, might have been ahead of a Shepherd, but there's 3 and 4 Canterbury players there, and, well, Canterbury at 6s and 7s, as you said before.
Well, that try was the result of 2 things. Firstly, it was the result of weight of possession against you, and secondly, it was the result of extremely poor defence.
Cronin is 22 metres out on the touchline, 3 from 3. 18 points to 0 in favour of the blue and golds. The Cronin kick looks good. No, he's just missed it, but it was very, very close from on the touchline, and there's the scoreline. Parramatta leading Canterbury, 32 minutes gone, 18-0. Here's the restart by Armstrong. The deep kick is taken by Sterling. He's given it to Lydiard. Lydiard crosses the 10-metre line and comes out to Pittman and Gary Hughes before being put down. Third grade result, Penrith defeating Cronulla 10-8. Reserve grade went to Manly 21-6 over St George. Jeff Bugden plays it. Jerd crossing the 22. Sterling. Cronin. Mayers. And he's got a pass to Weller. A quick ball to Price. Price is held there by Andrew Farrer. Edge. Sharp. Kenny. Cut out pass. Hunt coming in field. And Hunt is pulled down there by Johnston and Pittman. 5 tackles gone now for Parramatta. Fed back to Sterling, who sets his sights on the line, and everything's going right for the Eels today. Everything is going right. He's found touch only about 16 metres out from the Canterbury line. That man, Peter Sterling, here he is again. Action replay. So the scrum won by Canterbury. It's out to Gary Hughes and back to Chris Mortimer. Now to Andrew Farrer, across to Peter Mortimer. He crosses 22. Lydiard is beaten by him. Tony Armstrong and Eric Groth. Look at them go! Groth made the tackle from behind on Armstrong. Out to Chris Mortimer. And Chris has done very well. He got away from 2 and got the pass out through Hughes. It's gone on to Bateri, and now it's knocked down, and Bugden has it for Parramatta. Through Hunt to Price, and now to Sterling, and then a wide ball out to Cronin. Oh, beautiful pass to Groth. Here goes the big man again. He's got troubles in front of him. He's tackled, stays in field.
That was a tremendous pass by Mike Cronin. A deft pass, cut a man out to Eric Groth, running free down the sideline, and that's the mark of a class footballer.
Mayers. Bill, I don't think I've seen Mike Cronin in the last 5 or 6 weeks, and we've been televising all the Parramatta matches, playing first man off the pass as many times in his career as he has in these last 5 or 6 weeks.
Yes, he's probably taken upon it himself to take some of the pressure off Peter Sterling, who normally handles that role for Parramatta. I think you'll find he does it, Ray, just on short blind sides. He just ducks around the corner on about a 10 or 15 metre blind and keeps play coming that way.
Steve Sharp to play it. This is the last tackle for Parramatta. It's with Sterling. Sterling puts it up. Oh, gee, it's a high kick. There's going to be pressure here for somebody. Up they go. Knocked down by Kenny. Knocked down by Kenny. No doubts in my mind. And the knock-on has been ordered. Knock-on. Here's the bomb by Peter Sterling. It was very high. It gave his followers plenty of time to get through. Tony Armstrong was the player under pressure. And It's incredible. The touch judge has come in now about an incident involving Paul Mears and Chris Mortimer. But as commentators, you see something, you say, well, I'm definite there was a knock on there, and then you see it on the replay and you say, well, who did it come off? So, you know, how can you be a grandstand jockey on referees and think that you're right? Sterling on the open side after Parramatta had won the scrum. He was tackled 10 metres out.
That's another scrum to Parramatta, and they've certainly got that art of screwing the scrum after the ball's in down to a fine art. It's working for them. It gives the opposition untidy balls should they win it, and also gives them a far better chance at winning the ball than they normally would have.
Here's Price taking it ahead, and Price is about 3 metres out from the line. Playing it back to big Paul Mears. I'm wondering whether he might have a go himself, the young fellow. Here's Mears. Yes, he's having a go. He's tackled a metre from the line. Now Price is a dummy half. Sterling's to the right.
Don't be surprised if he tries something. Price could be a kick ahead or something on his own.
Here's Sterling to Cronin, holds it. Oh, gee, Steve Ella was taken high, but the referee says play on. That's the 5th tackle. Now it's with Sterling. Up goes another bomb. Now let's see. Underneath it, Chris Mortimer. He lost it for a moment, but he did very well in the final wash-up. Good take, but a touch judge has come in. Touch judge in to make a report. And it's to do with Billy Johnston. I'm just trying to work out what this is. I'm wondering whether it was the tackle on Ella that I called high. The referee has taken the touch judge's report and given the penalty to Parramatta. Well, here it is. There's no doubt now because... Yes, well, he's got Johnston for what appears a forearm to the face. I'm sure the player not in possession.
I'm sure Bill would be happy to settle for 2 points there against him.
Well, the 2 points hasn't been accommodated yet by Michael Cronin. There's a shot of what he's looking at. He's about 20 metres in from touch and 20 metres out. He's in front of the Brawongle stand. He's kicked 3 out of 4. Parramatta leading 18-0 as Cronin hits it, and he's missed it. No goal. It'll come out for the 22 dropout by Canterbury Bankstown. Parramatta 18, Canterbury no score. Sterling. Lydiard. Robinson picks him up and dumps him. The crowd roars.
Yes, he's one of the few Canterbury Bankstown forwards that's really giving it his best today, Jeff Robinson.
Big day for this fellow, Mears. Both Mears and Lydiard out there in easily their biggest assignment to date. Sterling. Price held by 3 Canterbury defenders. Graham's brother Gary, one of them. Michael Pittman, the other. Now it's with Sterling, and this is Kenny. Now Cronin, and Cronin's pass was forward a mile. Penalty to Canterbury Bankstown. 5 metres into Parramatta's territory. See it again. No doubts about that one, eh?
None at all.
Keep your eyes on Stevie Mortimer here with only 2 minutes remaining on the clock. I think that Canterbury do need to score to have any chance whatsoever in the second half, and he's the man. Look for him to dart into dummy half and use himself up.
So it's Johnston and Steve Mortimer now running into Bugden and Mears. 2 minutes to go, as Graham said. Johnston dummy half. That's Michael Pittman, taken by Price and Sterling. Centre field on the 22 line. Gary Hughes calls Farah inside. Sterling misses him. He gets a pass away to Johnston. Oh, gee, the line was open for folks, but it's come down with Stephen Edge. Jerd across the ground, throws a dummy. He makes me laugh at times, Stan. He threw a dummy and there wasn't a defender in sight. But he made a sprint out to the 22 line. And this is Neil Hunt now. Edge. Sterling. Cronin. Cronin's through a tackle. Got a pass around the corner. Kenny is tackled. Paul Mayers is receiving attention in the back play, as it is with Steve Sharp. Ooh. Duck your head down if you're sitting in your lounge chairs. It was Andrew Farrell letting one go. It was aimed around the chest of Sharp, but Sharp ducked his head in. Here's a chance. I thought for a moment for Parramatta, because they were standing fairly flat, Canterbury, but the siren sounds as Chris Mortimer takes it to ground. That's the end of the first 40 minutes, and Mayers appears to be in a lot of pain as he comes from the field. Jack Gibson takes a quick look of concern at Paul Mayers. Parramatta file from the ground. Oh, look at that face of agony on Mayers. He's with the trainers. Cronin asks, what's the trouble? But Parramatta at half-time, leading by 18 points to 0. Well, Parramatta scored 18 in 40 minutes. I suppose it's possible for Canterbury to do likewise as they start now the second half. Down to Peter Sterling, and Parramatta guarding the Randwick end. Breeze coming more or less across the ground, but if it is an advantage to a side in the second half, is with Canterbury now. Here's Price. Played back to Steve Edge, and Edge goes for a run across the ground and fails just to reach the 22 line. Here's Price now, and Price is able to pop a pass out the back, and it's taken by Steve Edge, who gives it to Mayers, and Mayers gallops up the centre, round the corner pass to Stephen Ella. Ella's getting across towards the flank. He's on the halfway line.
My word, that was a good pass from young Paul Mayers. He's showing all the attributes of a top prop forward.
And here he is again now, Mayers, and he's held by Coveney and Folks. As tackle number 5 is indicated, Sterling drops it onto the boot, looks for the line, and he's found it. Oh, it's crossed the touchline, only about a metre out. Peter Sterling finding the line again. Tremendous kick as shown on the Rank Arena replay here. And there it is, a few metres out. Mortimer to feed. Won by Canterbury, but same tunnel he wanted again. Steve Mortimer with a negative wave of the head. And there it is in now, and it's a penalty to Canterbury. He's got Parramatta for screwing that scrum. Differential to Canterbury Bankstown. Well, Max Krilich, 18-0 in favour of the Eels. It's certainly a very big lead, to say the least, after 40 minutes of semi-final football.
And they're looking very comfortable too. I'd like to compliment Eric Wraith and the rest of his Kangaroo fellow players on a great performance, first half performance. Eric Wraith scored one of the best tries I've seen for a long, long time, and I think it brought shades of England back. It was sensational.
Well, Max, it's got to be possible for Canterbury to get out of trouble, because rugby league has played over 80 minutes. What have they got to do, in your opinion?
Well, I think they've got to follow the ball carrier. They're not doing that at all. They're running one out, two flat. Like, there's no one with Jeff Robinson here. There's no one following the man at all with the ball. And until they start doing that, like, they could have scored maybe one try, and there was just no one backing up. And as it is now, there's just no one following the play. But I think Parramatta have easily got their measure. It's a very fine defensive and attacking performance by the Eels.
Former Australian captain Max Krilich, as we see Peter Mortimer making a fine run. Gets it infield to Andrew Farrer. Farrer's taken by Paul Mayers. The line is just 12 metres away for Canterbury. Anderson to Johnston to Gary Hughes. A cut-out pass to Folks. Folks gets a ball down to Johnston. Johnston comes back into the centre of the ground, finds Chris Mortimer, who in turn gives it to Andrew Farrer. Back to Chris Anderson. Canterbury Bankstown keeping this ball alive. Anderson playing it. Johnston passes, finds Steve Mortimer, puts the bomb up into the scoreboard corner. Kenny's there. Oh, that's a great take by Kenny. Running backwards and taking it so professionally. And he looks up at Eric Grove. I'm not sure what he said, but you would have seen the smile on Kenny's face as if to say, what were you doing in my road then?
Well, from what we saw there in the first few minutes of this second half, Canterbury certainly aren't going to take this game laying down. No one's told them they can't win it.
Line drop out to be taken by Mike Cronin. There's the Cronin drop kick going down to Chris Mortimer. coming back at high speed and tackled 20 metres away from the Parramatta line. This is Taz Batiri. Canterbury Bankstown desperate for points. Out to Mortimer, on to Hughes, and then across the face of Robinson. He's picked up by Michael Pittman. Back inside for Robbo. Robinson, yes, he's over. Jeff Robinson has scored for Canterbury Bankstown. Robinson, a try after 5 minutes of the second half. This is the Rank Arena replay. Gorgeous pass from Gary Hughes. And then Michael Pittman stood in the tackle. And Jeff Robinson, well, he really bulldogged over the top of David Lydiard.
This is a great reward for Robinson's first half effort. Probably the only Canterbury forward on the field that was really lifting his effort. A magnificent long ball there to Mick Pittman. Robbo backing up, as Max Krilich was saying, the Bulldogs should be supporting the ball carrier, and his brute strength just carried him over.
Well, this is exactly what Canterbury Bankstown should have been doing in the first half, and if anyone can ever find the answer to motivate a team and make them click all of the time, I'd like to know what it is. But an excellent try there from Canterbury Bankstown. Great ball to Pittman. A good offload to Jeff Robinson, and he was strong enough to knock David Lydiard out of the road and go over for a try that's got Canterbury back into the game.
Big and strong, Jeff Robinson. Well, Tony Armstrong, who had to come on in the early minutes to replace the injured Ross Conlon, is taking this attempted conversion from a point about 22 metres in. He's about 18 metres out, hits it, and oh, it's hit the upright and bounced away. So Canterbury's luck continues to be bad, even though they've scored in the first 5 minutes. They lead, or should I say, Parramatta leading them now by 18 points to 4. Restart by Cronin, the shallow kick-off straight to Robinson. Held there by Hunt, Jerd and Sharp. Now it goes now to Coveney. Coveney held by Mayers and Jerd. In there as well was Edge. Steve Mortimer sees an opening, but it's closed by Edge and Bugden shutting the centre up. Now Mortimer plays the ball. It's a penalty to Parramatta. That's for picking the ball up out of the play the ball contest. Crowd here today just down on yesterday, 22,311, indicating that the league patrons this year anyway only interested, or not only interested, but more interested in the sudden death situation.
Well, you've got that urgency, haven't you? One team is going to exit, whereas they're going to see these two teams go around next week, win or lose.
Now the tap for Parramatta to be taken on the Canterbury 22. Taken by Peter Sterling, given immediately to Jerd, and Jerd is held by Coveney, Johnston and Pittman. Edge is the dummy half. The line is 18 metres away. It's out to Sterling, and now it's with Bugden. Bugden gets a pass down, picked up on the half volley by Price, then to Sterling, on to Jerd. Jerd, he wasn't held. He crawled a couple of paces. Now the ball's down on the ground, picked up by Mayers. Mayers gets a one-handed to Sharp. Sharp to Sterling. Sterling, he gets the pass to Bugden. Bugden's pass on the bounce, taken by Ella. Oh, it's gone behind Lydiard and dived on by Canterbury Bankstown. Canterbury's got it.
Canterbury are certainly playing with a lot more enthusiasm and a lot more commitment than they did in the first half. They're just looking like they're more determined than when they first ran on.
Gary Hughes to Jeff Robinson. Big hit there by Bugden and Sterling. Now John Coveney, taken by Jerd and Sharp. They've reached the 32-metre line. Blood coming from the mouth of Steve Mortimer as the ball is lofted across the ground by Gary Hughes to Andrew Farrer. Here's Peter Mortimer, taken by Brett Kenny. Armstrong, Hughes. Puts up a kick. It's going straight to Dave Lydiard, and Lydiard now will display some of his speed. He's coming over towards Peter Sterling. Lydiard got away from a tackle. Now he's gone into touch. Well, that's bad football in the final wash-up. First tackle going into touch. Scrum fed by Mortimer, and it's a penalty to Canterbury. Penalty to the Bulldogs. And he's calling Stephen Edge over. Andrew Farrar taking the line kick. And ball stops out for Canterbury in every department. Paul Langmack coming down the chute. Now it's gone across from Batiri to Pittman, and Pittman is tackled by Price on the Parramatta 22. From Mortimer over to Batiri. Batiri, he's within 15 metres, got the pass back to Johnston. Johnston is taken by 3 Parramatta defence men. From Mortimer back to Folkes, and now to Gary Hughes. He cuts out Robinson, picks up Chris Mortimer. The pass goes to Chris Anderson. Anderson is tackled 5 metres out from the line. Chris Mortimer, the dummy half, out to Gary Hughes. He cuts out Steve Mortimer. The ball goes to Billy Johnston. Back to the blind for Robinson. Turns it inside. Taken there by Pittman, and Pittman is held by Paul Mayers. Pittman playing it 10 metres out from the line. Out to Steve Mortimer. He gets the bomb up. Kenny's getting underneath it with Lydiard, and it's, let's see, it's a try! He's given a try to Andrew Farrar. Try scored by Canterbury Bankstown's Andrew Farrar. Adjacent to the uprights. Coming from a Steve Mortimer bomb. Here it is on the Rank Arena replay. Brett Kenny and David Lydiard, there didn't seem to be too much talking there. And it may well have come off Canterbury's Peter Mortimer and gone back to Andrew Farrar. That's the way I saw it on that replay.
And Canterbury using their 6 tackles on very solidly on that occasion. A lot of enthusiasm in the start of the second half, and they really are starting to support each other. A bomb with pinpoint accuracy.
Fair try, scored by Farrar for Canterbury Bankstown, and an easy one for Tony Armstrong. Armstrong successful. Canterbury Bankstown pulling back now. 18 points, 10 down. John Coveney off the field, and Paul Langmack is on. There's young Langmack in his first year of the top grade. Came from Fairfield Patrician Brothers. So Parramatta getting themselves into a little bit of trouble here after leading 18-0. Canterbury, after 10 minutes of the second half, are back to 18 points to 10. And here's Taz Batiri getting across the ground, and Mayers and Edge make the tackle. Played back to Billy Johnston, and Johnston passes to Mortimer, then the run around, and then, oh, intercepted by Brett Kenny. He's up for the corner. He's in. Kenny has scored. Flirting with danger, I suppose, in the minds of some, but that's the once from many times, really, that we've seen Brett Kenny intercept and score. Look at the smile on Johnny Mooney, the reserve grade coach from Parramatta. Well, just as I thought that we're going to see Jeff Robinson skyrocketing up the centre of the ground, Kenny was going the opposite direction. Amazing stuff. Brett Kenny in the Paddington Hill corner.
We've seen him all year go for the intercept, and I guess on percentages, one of those has to come off. On that occasion, the ball stuck, and Kenny, as he has exceptional ball skills, took it, no one in front of him, and he away goes for the try that Parramatta richly needed.
Well, here it is again on the replay. Billy Johnston's on the runaround course, and his eye line might have been just obscured there for a second. Billy Anderson.
Well, one must appreciate the tremendous reflexes of Brett Kenny. Of course, that was a very risky business, but Kenny came up with the goods, and he scored a try that virtually nullifies all the good work that Canterbury have done.
Michael Cronin, 5 metres in from touch. Takes the conversion attempt. The touch judges haven't moved. It's a goal. Oh, it's a goal, all right. When they don't move, you can almost bet your bottom dollar there's 2 points coming. That takes Parramatta to a lead of 24 points to 10. It was an amazing passage of football. I was about to say, look at Robinson busting up through the centre, and next thing I couldn't work it out. The traffic seemed to be going the other way. It was like watching tennis and the ball was going the other way. However, there it is. It's Kenny with a try. That's their fourth. And as Bill said, it nullifies all the good work done by Canterbury Bankstown, because that lead has now been extended. And here's this man.
Oh, here we go again.
Look at this man, Eric Growth. He mightn't have made much ground upfield, but I tell you what, he got rid of plenty in his wake as he made his way on a diagonal run.
I'm still convinced that the best way to stop him is to put a rope around him on the way out the gate.
Canterbury's come back with the ball. Robinson inside the 22, hit by Jerd. And Robinson to play it. Playing it back to Chris Mortimer. Now Steve, back to his brother Chris, and coming in as Price. Played by Chris Mortimer. Steve Mortimer says, I'm off. Out to that scoreboard corner. Peter Mortimer. Yes, Armstrong. Armstrong is in for Canterbury. Tony Armstrong scoring for the Bulldogs. Well, there's none quicker to seize an opportunity. Steve Mortimer saw that the blind was a little bit thin on from a Parramatta point of view, and he took off from dummy half, used brother Peter, and then Tony Armstrong picked up the 4-pointer.
Well, if it's action, you want it certainly all here at the Sydney Cricket Ground, and one might be just starting to wonder the value of that intercept by Brett Kenny now. Of course, that would have made the scoreline, looking at this stage, 18-14.
Precisely. The scoreline at the moment, however, 24-14 in favour of Parramatta, with Armstrong about to attempt conversion from a few metres in from touch.
Well, that try basically came from a very quick play the ball, which allowed Mortimer to scurry from dummy half and to find an overlap. But we must give credit to Canterbury Bankstown. Very courageous there. We almost expected them to submit and say we can't win this match, but they hit back almost immediately, and that's a good effort.
Points the difference. Tony Armstrong with a difficult kick. Hits it. It's got the height, got the length. I like it. It's a goal. Armstrong converts. The try scored by himself. 24 points to 16. Four tries came in 12 minutes. Former Canterbury and Australian captain George Paponis sitting next to Canterbury secretary Peter Moore. We got a ball game again. We didn't have one, then we had it, then we lost it. We got it back again. Parramatta players marking off on Ray Price, who's the only player with an eye line of the kick.
Yeah, you'll find all the players but will turn their head to look at the ball once it's been kicked and it's in the air.
Knock on by Chris Anderson, and a scrum will go down about 7 metres inside the Canterbury 22.
Well, they're the sort of errors Canterbury Bankstown just can't afford, and I'm sure that Ted Glossop will be tearing his hair out with that type of an error.
Yes, and they're the sort of errors that break the momentum of a comeback.
5-2 the scrums to Parramatta.
I've got to agree with Max Krilich. I think that the Parramatta scrummaging machine is working a lot better than Canterbury Bankstown. We can see they've got the push on them even here.
Parramatta winning the scrum. It's out to Ella. Ella taken by Gary Hughes, and Paul Langmack also breaking from the scrum very quickly from Price. It's gone to Cronin. Cronin to Hunt, and Hunt tries to make the break himself, but he's pulled down by Andrew Farrer and Steve Folkes, and now it's Steve Edge. He's tackled. He's deep inside Canterbury's territory as Sharp comes across the ground. And Parramatta now have used up, I would think, 4 tackles. As Sterling gives it to Mayers, and Mayers turns it back inside for Bugden, and Bugden is tackled 10 metres out from the Canterbury line. Tackle number 5 for Parramatta. Here it comes to Sterling. Mortimer goes through. Sterling's bomb is high. Sterling's going through, trying to put them all on side, and Canterbury have come down with it. Canterbury in possession, just out from their own line.
I'm sure that Canterbury Bankstown would have liked to have kicked the ball a lot more than they have in this game, but of course they've got a dilemma where they're not able to kick the ball because they just don't have adequate possession to be able to give it away.
Well, Max Krilich, 18-0 has been converted to 24-16 with 4 tries in 12 minutes. It's a crazy game, this rugby league.
Yes, they've come straight back into it, Ray. It's I thought it might have been over when Brett Kenny scored that individual try there, but great determination by the Bulldogs. They're back in this game with a fight now.
Max Krilich covering the big games with us here on Channel 10 right through the final series. That bounce was nasty for David Lydiard. Here he comes now from outside the 22 line, diagonally. Now he straightens and he's tackled 10 metres short of the halfway. Lydiard playing it back to Ray Price, who passes and finds Sharp, and Sharp is able to gain about 10 metres before running into the tackle of Folkes and Robinson. Sharp playing it back now for Ray Price to pass to Peter Sterling. Sterling to Cronin. Cronin, a short ball to Growth. He's away from 1, away from 2, given up to Kenny. Kenny struggling with Armstrong, ducks under a tackle, gets it to Price, on to Sterling. Sterling gets the pass to Edge, and Edge is tackled about 30 metres out from the Canterbury line.
A lot of these Canterbury players have got to start to go low. They're trying to hurt the man up high far too often, and they're not big enough themselves to do it. Sterling
turning it back inside for Ella, and Ella is tackled just outside the Canterbury 22. Dummy half is Steve Edge. Paul Mears says, I want it. That's him with it. Now it's with Mike Cronin. A chip over the top, and David Lydiard was felled. David Lydiard was felled, not in possession. Well, it was a chip by Cronin. There was Lydiard disappearing out of the left of the screen. He was taken by Andrew Farrer.
Yes, it was completely unnecessary. Canterbury were always going to come up with that ball. Farrer's given away a penalty, which they just couldn't afford.
Here it is on the head-on. The chip by Michael Cronin over the head of Peter Mortimer. There's Lydiard taken by Farrer. He just collared him around the shoulders, the neck area. And Cronin's got this attempted penalty from about 16 metres in from touch. He'll be kicking from in the M.A. Noble corner. 4 out of 6 for Mike Cronin. David Lydiard's quite okay. So here comes Cronin. He hits it. It's just wide for Cronin. Parramatta continuing to lead by 24 points to 16. 17 minutes gone, second half. line dropout for Chris Mortimer. Down the ground towards Peter Sterling. Moving over to Eric Growth, and Growth it is that comes away with it. He's about 8 metres on his own side of the halfway. Dummy half is Sterling. Now with Price. Turns it back for Edge, and Edge runs into the forward brigade. Sharp, Jerd. Jerd reaching the halfway line, and the ball is on the ground, is it not? No, Jerd has still got it. Sterling dummy half. Out to Cronin. Cronin taken by Pittman and held by Gary Hughes. Hughes wrapping those arms around Cronin's chest area and the ball at the same time. Mears tackled on number 5. Play just near the halfway line. Edge. Sterling holding up the pass, finding Kenny, finding Lydiard, calling inside Neil Hunt. Hunt gets a pass down, but it's on the ground, and Anderson has it for Canterbury.
Very good 6-tackle variation there by Parramatta. The winger Chris Anderson for Canterbury, a drop back waiting for the kick from Sterling. Sterling threw the long ball, and they had the overlap.
Gary Hughes running into Jerd and Mears comes over the top and wraps them all up, and Jerd has come out of it injured. Here's Steve Mortimer with the chip over the top. Lydiard appears to have it covered. No, he hasn't! Steve Mortimer is off to score! The brilliant Steve Mortimer! That's a great try by him. 24 points to 20 now. Well, he's been called many things. You've heard the expression, the magic of Mortimer. Well, here it is again. Steve Mortimer, the chip over the top. I thought Lydiard had it, but that bounce was so beautiful for Steve Mortimer. And he was away to score adjacent to the uprights, and we've got a scoreline of 24 points to 20.
one of the men who can really turn a game of rugby league and make it the great game that it is. If Canterbury were playing without luck in the first half, on this occasion, it all smiled on them, and that bounced too much for David Lydiard, and the man of Mortimer's pace, well, he was gone. And Canterbury right back into the match, 24-20.
What a super play.
Well, that makes it 4 tries apiece, and from a game that we thought was gone, dead and buried, we've now got a tremendous match on our hands. Armstrong,
No mistakes. Parramatta leading Canterbury 24-22 after they had led 18-0 at half-time. What's he thinking?
well, we did say in the first half, Ray, that even though Parramatta's attacking machine was really working well, they had a lot of momentum up and so on, their defence wasn't good, and now that Canterbury Bankstown have been able to come up with a share of possession, we have seen that the Parramatta defence isn't as good as it might have been suggested.
Cronin restarting again. Down to Anderson. Taking it out is Andrew Farrer. Reaching his quarter line. Graham Hughes has gone from a pale shade of white to a bright pink in the space of 20 minutes.
Well, it's been a great comeback, and just probably harping on that try again of Mortimer's. Look for him to stay involved that way. He loves running from the dummy half area, and I'm sure in these final 20 minutes you'll see a lot more of it.
Gary Hughes, Chris Mortimer. Ooh, that was a hard hit, and Chris, I think, might have cracked his cheek on the top of Paul Mears' head. He's okay, though, as Mortimer kicks now, and Growth is getting back. He's let it bounce. Oh, that's dangerous, and Sterling has to take it. And he's tackled immediately there by Paul Langmack.
Good tackle by Langmack on chase there.
Kenny back on his feet after taking a knock. This is Growth.
Canterbury also showing how to tackle Growth a lot easier. They're going low and not trying to take the man high.
We saw yesterday how replacements played a very big part in the outcome of that match, and I'm sure that replacements are going to play a big part in the outcome of this game. An intelligent, judicious replacement can be the difference between winning or losing a game as tight as this one now is.
This is Edge. Sterling. Sterling getting the kick in, looking for the touch line. Chris Mortimer's got it covered. And Chris comes out from the 10-metre line. Taken by Sterling and Jerd. About 25 metres out. Steve Mortimer, Gary Hughes, Paul Langmack. Parramatta driving in. Bugden, Mears, Price, Johnston, Gary Hughes, Michael Pittman, Sharp and Bugden making that tackle. 32 metres out now. Mortimer shapes to kick, doesn't. Bugden's got him. Billy Johnston. Chris Anderson. Oh, what a tackle. What a tackle from Mears on Anderson. Chris Mortimer. There's that tackle from Mears on Anderson, and he hit him with everything he had. Now, David Lydiard picks up the ball, but the referee has ruled a knock-on and a scrum to go down just inside the Parramatta 22.
Yes, and a lot of pressure starting to fall on a side that was doing it all so easily at 18-0, and well, 24-22, and the pressure showing on some very experienced players.
18 minutes of the match remaining.
It's a very important scrum for Canterbury Bankstown. They've got the feed in this one. I think we should look for something different from Gary Hughes, maybe a kick.
Gary Hughes giving it to Chris Mortimer. He's over the top of David Lydiard. The ball has gone to Langmack, but it's a Parramatta penalty. He's ruled passing from the ground. Chris Mortimer, well, he wasn't on the ground looking at that shot. Penalties are 12-6 to Parramatta. That's a big disadvantage in anybody's language. Cronin takes the line kick now. Brett Kenny again on his haunches, looking for attention as Edge is tackled by Johnston. Sterling. Bugden. Now Sterling. Steve Ella. And Ella taken by 3 Canterbury defence players. Here goes Neil Hunt, who created a lot of pressure for his side with that knock on just a few seconds back. Good run by him then, though. Out to Steve Ella. Now Paul Mayers hitting it up out wide. Gary Hughes making the tackle. Just 2 points in it. Parramatta 24, Canterbury 22. Cronin, Gross. That's the turnover. Steve Mortimer. Wide through brother Chris. Out wide to Folkes. Folkes to Anderson. Anderson pursued by Mayers and caught by Hunt. Play on the halfway line. Canterbury making the ball do the work now. And this is Steve Folkes. Now Gary Hughes is injured for Canterbury.
Yes, and I'm sure that Brett Kenny's still not too healthy in the back, because he's gone to the fullback position and Lydiard's gone up into the line.
Robinson losing the ball. Sterling snapped it up and then passed. But the referee ruled the pass went forward. Canterbury's penalty. Will Harris. Brett Kenny off the field of play for Parramatta. Here's Folkes, taken by Sharp and Price. Pittman. Langmack. Chris Phelan coming out for Parramatta as Mortimer chips over the top. Trouble again for Parramatta. Forced in goal by Stephen Sharp. Line drop out to restart.
Well, we can see that Jack Gibson's making a number of replacements in his side, and of course Ted Glossop's already made a replacement, and as we've mentioned, replacements are going to play a very important part in the outcome of this game.
Terrific little kick there from Stevie Mortimer too. That ball when it bounced could have gone anywhere.
Yes, well, all the pressure now is back on Parramatta.
Line drop out taken by Cronin. 13 minutes to go. Anderson taking it back.
We might have to work overtime again this afternoon, Ray.
Well, it could easily turn out that way. Taz Batiri. He's lost the ball. I do believe it's with Parramatta. Played by Edge. Sterling runs it. Price now. Mortimer with these chips over the top. He has almost got to do it himself, Graham, and I would think Glossop would be thinking about Brentnell coming on, because they have a magnificent understanding, don't they?
Well, they certainly do. He's a hard man to read, Stevie Mortimer. Quite often those kicks are done for himself, but when Brentnell is out there, it means a lot more value because he can get up so high in the air.
Out to Sterling. Puts the kick in, and it's been touched by Chris Mortimer. That'll be a Parramatta loose head and a Parramatta feed. Number 17 leaving the dressing rooms. That was Greg Brentnell. Brentnell apparently has been given the order by Ted Glossop to take the field.
It wouldn't surprise me to see Chris Mortimer move into the forwards and say someone like Taz Batiri come off the field.
But Chris Mortimer did everything humanly possible to keep that ball in the field of play. Here's Greg Brentnell, Rothman's medalist from last year, taking the field. He's not there yet. Parramatta winning the scrum. Sterling to play it. Stan Jerd off, Chris Phelan on. And now replacements, the order of the day, with Ray Price to play it. Playing it back to Chris Phelan. Phelan strong, within about 3 metres of the line. Dummy half is Ray Price. Goes himself, Price. He's held by Canterbury a few metres out. Stephen Edge goes into dummy half to take control. Sterling wants it. Now it's a penalty to Parramatta. Penalty to Parramatta. Now he's talking to Steve Mortimer. This was the play of the ball. Well, he's obviously ruled that a Canterbury player handled the ball in the play of the ball. If you can imagine a play of the ball, it's a contest between the man playing it and the marker. And if you drew a rectangle around those two players, you can't handle the ball in that area. Ted Glossop on the sidelines with Greg Brentnell. Mick Cronen's got this kick at goal. It's not a tremendously difficult one. He would be about 10 metres off centre and 15 metres out. Just over 22,000 people watching Parramatta lead by 24 points to 22, and Michael Cronin has enlarged that Parramatta lead just by 2 points. They now lead 26-22. John Muggleton in 17, warming up for Parramatta. The kickoff going down to Peter Sterling. Laid up with what was described early in the week as pneumonia. Then it was diagnosed as his first attack ever of asthma. And he's come back very strong and has played that way too. Now Price plays it back to Sharp, and they're taking it out as Groth is called into it. And Groth has tackled 32 metres out from his own line. Edge, Phelan. Steve Ella. Cronin. 5 tackles gone. Sterling will call it. No, Mayers has got it. Puts the kick in. That'll torpedo. Oh, it's a good kick by Mayers. That's a good kick by the second row forward. 32 metres away from the Canterbury line. This young man, Paul Mayers, who's shown all the talents in his first year in the major grade to suggest that one day he'll wear the green and gold. Bugden is off. Muggleton is on. Canterbury scrum. Gary Hughes. Peter Mortimer. Away from Lydia. Taken by Ella. Steve Mortimer off from dummy half. Turns it back inside for Armstrong. Tony Armstrong about 6 metres on his side of the halfway. Looking at the timepiece. 8 minutes to go. Robinson. Canterbury trailing by 4. Batiri taken by Price. 10 metres now into Parramatta's area. Steve Mortimer. Gary Hughes. Gary taken by Phelan. That's tackle number 5. Blindside for Steve Mortimer. Paul Mayers tries to block him down, but Mortimer's put it out on the full. Scrum to go down just on the Parramatta side of the halfway. They'll have the loose head and the feed. (26-22). And Canterbury win the scrum against the feed. Long ball out to Peter Mortimer, pursued by Michael Cronin. Anderson. Chris Mortimer. Taken by Sterling and Muggleton. Chris Anderson. Taken by Will Harris. Got the pass to Chris Mortimer. Canterbury just outside the 22. Out to Steve Mortimer. Up to the quarter, taken by Ella. Got it to Langmack, turns it to Chris Mortimer. Outside to Michael Pittman. The ball loose, and Parramatta, Stephen Edge has it. Edge to play it. Parramatta will settle it. Phelan, a 10-metre run. Neil Hunt. Billy Johnston making the tackle. Edge passing to Sterling. Now Cronin. Oh, how did he get that pass to Price? Price to play it now. On the halfway line. Harris in 26. Mears. 5 tackles now. Sterling will probably shoot for this touchline. Here he goes. There's the kick, giving himself an each-way bet. Anderson's got it. Passes immediately to Chris Mortimer. Chased by Sterling, beaten and tackled eventually by Harris and Phelan. Steve Mortimer. Gary Hughes. Gary Hughes taken from behind by Steve Edge. Mortimer. That's Folks.
Kind of a little bit disorganised. They're trying to spread the ball far too much instead of settling up for some, well, just trying to organise their own play.
6 minutes of time remaining. The Eels with the ball. Price playing it. Back to Muggleton. Pass to Stephen Sharp. Sharp, I think, has injured a leg in the tackle. Played back to Ella. Ella off from dummy half. Parramatta 15 metres out from the line.
We might see Parramatta set for a field goal here just to give themselves a little more breathing space.
Mears tackled 12 metres from the line. No marker, played ahead. He's now 5 metres out. Last tackle for the Eels. I wonder, will they take the drop shot? Here's Chris Phelan, and that's another turnover. Gary Hughes. Paul Langmack. Andrew Farah. Langmack's knocked on, and I think Parramatta's come up with it. They have. John Muggleton to play the ball, 12 metres from the line. Parramatta with 6 tackles. That's Lydia. Greg Brentnall still on the sidelines, unable to get on.
Yes, this is one of the problems with the new rules that we identified early in the year. It's hard for a coach to get a replacement on because we just don't have that stoppage on the 6th tackle for a scrum.
Mears. Parramatta just showing a touch of disorganisation. Players looking at one another, wondering exactly what's to happen now. The playmaker is this fellow, Sterling. Now Muggleton. He's about a metre from the line. Tackle number 5. So Sterling may use the cross kick bomb here. This is Steve Ella. Back to Sterling. And there goes the bomb. Canterbury going back, taken and tackled in goal is Paul Langmack. Greg Brentnall takes the field in 17. 3.5 minutes of time remaining. Parramatta leading by 26 to 22.
Canterbury Bankstown team, number 17, Greg Brentnall.
Gary Hughes is off. Greg Brentnall is on. Steve Ella takes back the line dropout. Through a couple. Down to the 22 line. Time running out for the Bulldogs. Edge across the ground, picking up Mears. Through one. Taken 15 metres out. Had a huge game, this fellow, Paul Mears. Edge, blindside, Muggleton trying to reel free of a tackle. He's in the Paddington Hill corner, playing it back to Chris Phelan. Here's Peter Sterling has knocked on. So a scrum, almost in front of the Canterbury uprights. Straight through, he said. Steve Mortimer feeding. Penalty to Parramatta. He's got Mortimer for the feed. Differential penalty to Parramatta. Just outside 2 minutes to go. And one would think that's the ball game. But when there's a fellow by the name of Mortimer in the Canterbury side, you can never feel sure in saying that. And now he's got a fellow from Wagga who basically came down here on the same night from memory. It was an Amco Cup. The bloke called Greg Brentnell, and have they got some understanding as Growth shows tremendous strength in running towards the line. Sterling stepping to within 2 meters now. Sterling will play it to Price. Price passes, finds Ella. Ella throws a long ball. Will Harris! Harris! Harris is in! Harris has scored for Parramatta. A big thrill for the youngster. Shutting down the curtain on this afternoon's semi-final. Wasn't that a long pass and beautifully thrown?
Well, Canterbury Bankstown were always short in defence on that side of the field. Chris Anderson had come in to try and affect the tackle, ball and all. Left players exposed on the left-hand side for Parramatta. And of course, Will Harris did the rest after a long ball by Ella.
That pass from Steve Ella, look at it. That had Ella Magic written right across it. And Will Harris scores in the M.A. Noble corner. There he is, and what a proud moment it must be for him. The crowd, well, they're heading for the exits, but I can assure you that there hasn't been man, woman or child leave this Sydney Cricket Ground until now. A tense semi-final that was almost a non-event at half-time. 18-0 in favour of the Blue and Golds, and Canterbury came back, and how? Got to within 2 points. But now Parramatta has surged to a comfortable lead of 30-22. 5 out of 8 for Michael Cronin. He's on the quarter and a metre in from touch. Kicking into the Paddington Hill corner. Hits it. It's wide again, so it's no goal, but Parramatta leading by 30 points to 22. And 1 minute of time remaining. Greg Brentnell kicking off, and it's with Peter Sterling. Sterling taken by Johnston. Well, the Eels have simply got no worries now with a lead of 8 points. This is Phelan. I still tend to think that Coach Gibson wouldn't be entirely happy with Parramatta's frontline defence.
Well, for all those Manly players watching, their confidence would be lifted, Ray. The defence of both sides has been very poor.
We've been used to seeing Parramatta in defence so strong around that one off the ruck area where they make that first up tackle very well, but that didn't happen in various stages of this game today.
Here's Price. Sharp. Parramatta just killing it now. Using up 5. It'll go now, you would think, to Sterling. Lomez can kick himself. He does that, the big fellow. And he gets a bounce that has been raked back in field by Tony Armstrong, and Greg Brentnell brings it back down the ground. Runs into Sterling and Mayers. And there's the siren. The semi-final's over. The Blue and Golds rejoicing in victory over Canterbury this afternoon by 30 points to 22. Sterling, Harris, Growth and Kenny tries. Kenny picking up 2 of them. Cronin with 5 goals. And for Canterbury, Robinson, Farrer, Armstrong and Steve Mortimer tries, with Armstrong 3 goals.